What's up? Prinston coming to you from the Centerverse. And right now, on this video, I'm going to give you something very special, and that's how you can become a better leader. I want you to picture yourself right now. You're the person everybody looks up to. People hang on your every word. When you walk into a room and you speak, people actually listen. But how do you get to this mystical level? How do you get to the point where everybody, the entire organization, entire group, an entire social circle are looking for you to know what to do next? And not only that, harnessing that ability in order to make some actual results. Instead of being the person who makes disasters, you're the person who makes miracles. You get results. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to be that person instead of being the person who doesn't actually do shit. Let's talk about it. So I was inspired to talk about this topic today because I work with a lot of organizations and I work with a lot of leaders in organizations, and I kind of find a couple of trends that I see all the time. Now, if you want to go deeper into the concepts I'm going to talk about today, a great book I recommend is Multipliers. They talked about in that book two types of leaders. They talked about diminishers and they talk about multipliers. Now, the first thing I guess I'm going to start with is what type of leader or what type of leadership qualities should you avoid? What type of leader should you avoid being in order to kind of get the most impact, the maximum impact, to make people really want to follow you? The first thing that I'm going to talk about simply is feedback. So what I mean by feedback, most people when they talk to you, they're going to give you some shitty feedback because they're always going to be trying to tell you what they think's best or what they think's best or stuff that you already know. Will was just talking about behind the camera that, you know, people will tell you stuff that you already know. But the reason they're telling you is that because everybody thinks that they know what's best, even if they don't have the experience. So let me give you an example of this. I remember calling people to talk about stuff for my product. Like, oh, you know, what do you think about this part of the product? What do you think about this part of the product? And then people would just launch into these long stories about what they think I should do for my business in general. Now, typically, I'm not even opposed to feedback, but the point is, it wasn't the feedback. I never even get feedback on the thing I asked them to give me feedback on. Now, as a leader, a lot of people are going to come to you, or they're going to give feedback of how they could be doing better within your organization. You got to be the person who looks at it and listens first, this is key, and responds. Now, another leadership quality you have to be very, very particular about, and that is the idea of blaming others for your problems. I tell my friends all the time, if you want to be an elite player, if you want to play at the elite level, then you're going to have to understand this simple quality, that you signed up as an entrepreneur, as a leader of an organization, a leader of people, to play at an elite level. And what do I mean by that? So many leadership organizations, they start blaming their employees, they blame their subordinates, they blame people under them, they blame people who work with them for the reasons things don't go right. And of course, that's easy. It's easy for you to blame everybody around you for why things are not going your way. And of course, sometimes people have really messed up. Sometimes people have fucked up completely. And you want to blame them for what happened. But as a leader, you chose to play at a higher level. And what does I mean by that? That means taking responsibility for everything in your organization. I always tell people, do you want to be right or do you want things to get done? Do you want to be the person who berates people in front of everybody and says, this is what you should do, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and never really accomplishes this shit, but you are always right? You always got your point across. The whole point about being a leader is you have to hold yourself to a higher standard. That's why I say playing at elite level. The people at leadership organizations, they're not playing at the small level. They're playing at the elite level. And to play at that level, you have to live by different rules. That's what I mean by this. A lot of times when you see leaders, the first thing they do, a project will fail. And they'll come in and they'll say, well, shit, if I'm just going to throw a real name, if Ken over there, if he would have done his job better, this shit would have went better. But I always tell them, but at the end of the day, it's your organization. What are you going to do? You can blame everybody else, but then people will lose respect for you. People are always like, why you lose respect for leaders and all this? Because they're not a person who's coming giving you the proper things you need in order to succeed. They're not giving you the feedback you need in order to succeed because they're always telling you what you did wrong instead of telling you what you can do to improve. So as a leader, this is one of the biggest things you have to worry about. And this goes back to that first concept, you diminish everyone around you. And I'm going to expand on that in a second. Lastly, another small trait. Now, of course, we could go on forever about leadership qualities, but another one, Will just kind of touched on it, is certainty. Certainty in the plan. I remember when I first started working with the in-crowd, there was a big thing that happened with us where, you know, there's another group of promoters who wanted Will to come work for them. Now, the whole team was looking at this situation to see how Will would respond. Now, Will probably could have been more crass about it, and people kind of wanted him to be more crass about it, but he said, you know what, I have a team, I have to continue doing my own thing, and this is the direction I'm choosing to go. Now, why is this important that he did this? Because even though it may have been the wrong decision, who knows? However, It was the best decision for the team because it inspired certainty in the people in the organization. If you're the person who's flip-flopping all over the place, this person comes talk to you, the next person comes talk to you, people don't want to fucking follow you because they're like, well, shit, we're going to go in this direction, and then when somebody else says something, he's going to immediately change his mind, or she's going to immediately change her mind. And what happens is you don't build that strong certainty that people need to lead. One thing about leadership you have to accept, this is not always technical skills, you have the best knowledge. A lot of this is emotional. Can people put their trust in you? Can people follow you? And if you're not a person that people can follow, they just won't follow your lead. So with that being said, that long-winded thing about some of the bad traits of leadership, and like I said, once again, there's all kind of different aspects of leadership, but I'm focusing on some of the key let's talk about principles that help you get to the elite level. So what type of leader should you try to be? The leader that I found the most practical or the most useful when it comes to business entrepreneurship is becoming the leader that's inspirational. What do I mean by being an inspirational leader? I'm not talking about being a motivational speaker. I'm not talking about somebody who gives charismatic speeches that riles the entire teams up. All that type of stuff is just cool stuff you see in movies. It's not really getting to the core of what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about when I say being an inspirational leader is somebody who leads by example. I saw this great quote a while back. It was on Instagram. It says, a great leader says go, a good leader says let's go. And I want to talk about how in my life this has practically manifested itself. Now when I was in college, when I came into the organization, there was a lot of people that wasn't doing shit. They were just sitting around, they wasn't making things happen. The entire prestige of the organization started to really plummet and go downhill on our campus. But why was this? Because all the people who had emerged as leaders before, they always gave suggestions on how shit could be done better. But they were unwilling to take the actions themselves. I remember the first thing I did when I went to talk to people and asked them to do certain stuff, I would always say, look, you know what? I'm going to go do it. You should come help me with it. Now this, maybe in a bit of a way they felt guilty, but they were like, hey, you know what? You know what? Yeah, you good? Go ahead. So they felt guilty. They might have been like, you know, I'm going to help you because I felt guilty. But what really happened was they were inspired to help. When people saw me working that hard, when people saw me putting in that much effort, they were like, you know what? I'm not going to leave him hanging. I'm going to get out there with him, and I'm going to make shit happen. While most people are sitting around trying to tell people because they want to be the quote-unquote boss, most people are not trying to get in the mud with you and make shit happen. I think that's one of the most essential reasons why people are failing as leaders, because they're like, how do I get people to listen to me? How do I get people to respect my authority? It's because you're coming from the wrong state of mind. It's not about somebody just respecting you just for the hell of it, just because, oh, I'm gonna respect you because you've been put in a leadership position. Because just because somebody says you're the manager, somebody says you're the CEO, somebody says you're the leader, doesn't mean somebody's going to respect you. But if you're the person who inspires others, if you're the person who's really like for example, we'll sit there, we'll build websites if we have to. We'll sit there, Will will make his own flyers. Sometimes I film my own videos, I edit my own videos. All the stuff that I would ask anybody else to do for my own organization, I'm willing to do myself. When I go to my seminars, the Massive Action Talks, I go in there and I set up my own chairs. So yeah, just finished setting up. As always, you see me, it's just me. No flashing mirrors, I'm here by myself. But you know, this is kind of how I start all my seminars. But I think it's a very clear point to say, like right now, you know, I had to get up, I had to move all this type of stuff, and I could complain about not having that much help, anything like that, but it's like, it's my business. If I want it to be right, then I have to make it right. I'm not in that shit like, oh, well, you know, I need to get somebody else to set up my chairs. Like, go in there and set up the chairs. Like, that's not an inspirational leader, and it's not how you get people to follow you. All the best leaders of all time have been really about putting in the effort and putting in the long hours of work. That doesn't mean you do every task that every other person in your organization does, but it does mean that you're willing to take the same risk. It means you're willing to take the same liabilities. It means you're willing to put yourself on the line, just like you asked them to put yourself on the line. It's the same thing with military leaders. One of the greatest pictures, and I can't remember what documentary it was one of the generals when they were charging the beach on D-Day. All the soldiers, they fell back because they were terrified after the hail of gunfire hit them. And then one of the generals, he walks up, he sashays onto the hill, he pulls his little stick out, he waves, and he runs down the hill, and everybody comes charging over, and they take that portion of the beach. But that leader, he was willing to subject himself to gunfire just as much as the privates and the people he were commanding. And that's the same thing when it comes to you as a leader. If you're not willing to put yourself under the same fire, the same scrutiny, the same backlash, the same hard work, the same trials and tribulations as your team, how can you ever expect anybody to want to follow you? And essentially, this is what I mean when it means becoming an inspirational leader. Yeah, I could talk about leader traits. I mean, you can read books all over that talk about the different leadership traits. But one thing that I rarely hear talked about is that the leader who inspires gets people to do stuff the most. And I want to just make this last point about it. You can't make people want to do shit. This is why inspiration is so important. So the best way I could give, or the best example I could give, right now, if you worked for me, or you say you work for Will or somebody, and he said, hey man, you need to get up and do this shit. You may get up and do it because he's paying you or you feel like you're obligated to do it, but you wouldn't want to do it. And when you don't want to do something, you don't put as much work. You're not as dedicated, you're not as motivated to do it. You just do it because, hey, I'm here to collect the paycheck. But when you feel inspired to do something, you don't have to be told to do anything. You feel motivated. You feel a deeper sense of purpose. You feel that the person right there next to you is in this with you. You want to be the leader who's in it with your team, that helps your team build. And when you're able to do that, you won't be trying to demand anything out of people. You'll be motivating people. And you'll make everybody around you better as a result. So to wrap this up, I just want you to remember a couple things about leadership. There's a lot of resources, there's a lot of topics where people talk about how to become a better leader. You know, the 21 laws of leadership, which are great books. I've read books like that. Excellent books, excellent stuff. One thing that's rarely ever talked about is the underlying principles that you need in order to be a great leader. What really makes people want to follow you? Because the thing is, I've realized over the years, and there's a couple things we've talked about in various parts of this video, whether it's accepting leadership, whether it's being certain, whether it's not like shitting on your team, whether it's being somebody who actively takes a role in the thing you're building or the project that you're a part of. All these things are things that people miss when they want people to listen to them. So if you want to play at that elite level, you want to inspire others, this is what you're going to have to learn. This is what you're going to have to do. And this is what most leaders simply fail to do. I was inspired to talk about this topic because I work with a lot of people, and I work with a lot of people who call themselves leaders. And in the past, I will admit, I've actually been scared to accept leadership roles. I've talked about it on my channel before. But the real thing that you have to remember here, and the big thing that you have to understand about this, is that the qualities of a leader, some people think they can't be learned. Some people think that, oh yeah, you're born with them. And I can tell you, I don't believe I was born with leadership roles or leadership ability. But I believe those were things that I learned over time. And one of the key things was, when people told me to step up, I used to step down. But I chose to step up. And when I did, I didn't say, hey, you know what, you go do this shit, and I'm going to sit back and watch from my ivory tower and tell you how things could have been. I'm going to tell you how it could have been better, but I'm going to get out there with you. Same thing I do with business. The reason I like to teach entrepreneurship and talk to people about entrepreneurship or work with people in entrepreneurship is because I am an entrepreneur myself. I really do this. I'm out here filming in the hot sun. Will's right behind me filming in the hot sun. Because what? We believe in it. We believe this is going to produce a result. We're leading by example. And when you're able to do that, you become somebody who's inspirational. We're trying to build leaders who really motivate people. That's the word. Motivate people to make shit happen. And I believe that when people do that, you create better organizations, you create a better world in general, and you form a pillar for the people to follow you and follow your leadership in the future. So with that being said, join the Massive Action Movement, like and subscribe for more. You already know what to do. Go down right now to that like button. You look at it, slowly move your mouse cursor over it, then press subscribe, because that's what we need you to do. Join the Massive Action Movement Show. Like this video for more, and also leave us a comment. Tell us how you feel. Tell us your thoughts on leadership. Some of the things that help make you a better leader. And see you next time.